Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We want to welcome you to the July 23, 2003 meeting of the Palm Springs Planning Commission. Mr. Evans, do we have a report on the posting of the agenda?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. The agenda was posted here at City Hall in accordance with state and local procedures.
The first item we have is the approval of the minutes of the June 11, 2003 meeting. We had attending that meeting Mr. Matthews, myself, Mr. Grintz, Ms. Morantz, and Ms. Conrad. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes?
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Morantz and a second by Mr. Grintz to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved unanimously by those who attended the meeting. This is the time for public comments. If anyone here wishes to address the commission, now is the time to do that. If you are here on an item that's on our agenda, we would prefer that you make your comments at the time that item is called. But if you would like to address the commission at this time, you're welcome to do so. We would ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes and that you give us your name and address at the time when you reach the podium, and sign in, please. Does anybody wish to address?
Mr. Chairman, the stock casino issue, I could wait till that point.
If you would. We're going to take that up right away, by the way, so it won't be down on the agenda. Our public hearing items are called at 2 o'clock, so we will proceed with some of the agenda items that do not require public hearing. And the first item that we will call is item number 7. No?
No.
Where is it?
Item number 11.
Item number 11. Excuse me. This is the sign program application by the Agua Caliente Band of Cahuilla Indians for a sign program for the Spa Resort Casino located at 401 East Amato Road, Section 14. Do we have a staff report?
Mr. Chairman, I'm
Yes.
going to have to abstain on this item. I have a business in the area.
All right. Mr. Any other abstentions? And I'm trying to think now. I think I'm okay on the sign program. I'm on the Section 14.
You may be within 500 feet of your place of business. I'd have to get a map out.
Yeah.
Could you go get the assessor parcel book for this?
It's not a distance. I'm quite sure it's not a distance disqualification where that casino is from our office, but maybe we better be sure.
Well, that's right. You're on the other side
Right.
of the...
And
You're fine.
I did participate in the review of the casino architectural review.
Right. You're fine.
Yeah.
You do work for the tribe.
I did work for the tribe, so.
Yep.
So we will proceed.
Wait. Then let me ask the question. My family does work for the ACDA, but not at the casino.
ACDA board members are appointed by tribal council? No? Completely independent? Okay, probably not.
Okay.
All right, we have our
Okay. Mr.
standing
Chairman.
members have left the room, and I think we can go ahead with the staff report.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This is a follow-up to the work the Planning Commission did in conjunction with the casino and the City Council's conformity report. This is the sign program for the casino, and I'd like to give you a quick overview of that. You do have a motions agenda, and based upon the motions agenda and then some additional information that we received today, we'll probably ask you to consider making some changes to the motions agenda. But from the standpoint of the sign program, let me go through the main signs in a little bit of detail, and then I'll come back on customer convenience signs and spend just a brief amount of time on that. The sign program is for the casino site, which is here, again bounded by 4 roadways south of Amato Road. The main signs are at the main entryway, and then at the other casino entryway facing to the west. And the main signs on the building are located on the west elevation over this entryway here, and on the north elevation over this entryway and porte-cochere area here. And the main signs on the building, this is the west elevation. This is the north elevation, basically a reverse channel letter, halo lit on a blue tile background, and all the colors and materials would match the overall architecture of the building. Those signs are about 90 square feet, which is the code allowance. This is a project that the actual permit authority rests with the tribe, so we're advisory, and your recommendation today will go to the City Council next Wednesday as a minor project review under our processing agreement on tribal trust properties. As a logo, that would be in this location, and the recommendation from design review was that that sign is fine, very well designed, very well proportioned for the size of the building. The second series of signs are monument signs, corner of Encilia and Andreas and El Segundo. It's a monument sign that is shown here. It's 4 foot 4 inches in height, 13 foot 9 inches in length. Basically, again, meets the size criteria under our ordinance for that type of sign. And again, it's the same type of color materials. There was one recommendation that these are lighted elements in here, and that these be 3-dimensional quality, so that it's not just a plex face, but it's actually a material change with some depth to it. So that was the one recommendation. The actual Oya is a metal type material, and again, very strong. The base of this is a stone, and then real strong coping type element all the way around it. So it's a very strong, and it was also recommended for approval. The sign for the tenant, there's one tenant space, would be a restaurant, which is located on this corner of the building. The proposed sign would be in this location on the building. Again, just the restaurant name in a backlit channel letter, and then a lowercase letter underneath, talking about restaurant, bar, and cafe. That particular sign was not available for design review, but it's smaller than what design review talked about. It's a reverse channel halo type sign. Be a very attractive sign on that portion of the building. And as I think you can see, it sets very well in scale. And then if you want to see where it is on the actual building, would be in these areas in here. So it's on a fairly large building, and it's a relatively small sign. It's about 3 feet by 14 feet. So it's not a real large sign for that size of a building. The balance of the sign program on the casino site is a series of customer convenience signs to move people around the overall site. There was some confusion on staff's part relative to where these signs are. I think that's been resolved, and I don't think that was picked up in the recommendation. The design review recommendation on the casino sign program was that this particular sign, instead of just having a column, actually have a base to it, so it ties to the ground. It's a directional sign that would have some additional copy depending on what it would be identifying and depending on the location. I think the issue regarding 2A you can delete on sign M1, and that's just the material of this sign. I think the material meets the concerns that design review had relative to the quality of material. And then again, the 2B has to do with just a three-dimensional quality of this sign element. And there was one concern that there's just a feeling, and it may have just been graphic and size of graphics. The idea was that maybe this arrow could be more definitive, that some people might not see it as an arrow when they're driving about the site, just a little more definitive arrow, fairly small minor item. The second element that was submitted to the city is a renovation redo of the existing pylon sign for the resort casino on Indian Canyon. This is a photographic representation of basically where it would be proposed, an actual drawing of the sign. The existing sign is 31 feet 11 inches. The existing sign is a little bit larger in square footage than the proposed sign. The proposed sign is 30 feet in height, so they've taken roughly almost a foot off the sign. Would have an upgraded LED graphic display, higher tech, more vivid imagery, and design review and their review of that basically declined to comment at this time. From the standpoint of how that might fit the city codes and ordinances, it really doesn't, other than maybe a sign program, but it's so far removed from what the sign ordinance permits. We would probably have to process, if the city were the processing entity, the city would have to process either a variance or a zoning text amendment to try to deal with a sign of that style and design. It's an existing sign. They're upgrading it, a little bit smaller in the upgrade, a little bit different graphic package that's consistent with the rest of the project. All of the other spa, resort, and casino signs that you have on the property will all be redone with this style of lettering and materials. So these are to be resurfaced and refaced. We didn't look at any of the details of those, but they've done a very strong sign program relative to the casino site, and I'm sure that when they renovate those existing signs, they'll be equally attractive. That completes our report from the standpoint of design review. Planning Commission options. Planning Commission, we're asking you to consider making a recommendation to the City Council. Due to time schedules, we're going to take that to Council next week so that the tribe can take a look at the sign program, make their decisions, and order signs in time for opening of the facility. And the Commission can, support the sign program. The Commission can make recommendations on the sign program. The Commission, in theory, could say it's a fairly minor issue relative to the city and choose not to make any comments. So those are your options, and we'll certainly try to help you answer questions. That completes our report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Any question of staff at this time? This is not a public hearing item. However, I would invite Mr. Tyson to come up and speak because I may have misled him slightly. I was thinking that this was a public hearing item, but it's not. But since you indicated you did want to address the commission on this item, please feel free to do so.
Frank Tyson, 175 South Korea. 5 years ago, when the first Spa Casino sign went up, it caused quite an uproar. Having come to Palm Springs and invested here because of the character and strict ordinances, I personally was very upset, and in fact I became involved as a result of this in a statewide citizen movement dealing with casino impacts, and found myself in front of the Supreme Court as a plaintiff against Proposition 5, which was subsequently invalidated and which would have allowed unlimited slots. So what a difference a sign can make. However, to get back to the general feeling of public opinion, I've submitted to the Commission some letters and a public opinion poll, including a letter of one of the former tribal council leaders, who has also incidentally was a member of the city council at one point, a planning commissioner, because also within the tribe there was a lot of concern about the previous sign. And as you can tell from these letters, it was not well received in the community. Of course, it wasn't even run by the Indian Planning Commission or this Planning Commission, and nobody really knew. This time, the Planning Commissions know, the city knows, but still nobody else. I only found out about it yesterday, and that's one reason you won't see anybody else here. But I hate to see an outcry and another negative publicity. In reviewing the proposed sign program, we've sure come a long way, and I generally seems to be quite sensitive. I love the reduction of neon. I love the more peaceful blue rather than reds, and so on. And incidentally, I want to compliment the tribe also having done an excellent job on the casino itself, which certainly is an outstanding job compared to some casinos I've seen around the state. I still have trouble, however, with the large video screen, insofar the compatibility is concerned with the village atmosphere. I would like to really see some softening of this, of that impact. And I would hope that the Commission, I have no problem approving the program, but I would hope the Commission would maybe exclude the video screen and ask the Indian Planning Commission for some restudy or some softening. I know the argument, well, they can override us anyway, but that's not the point. The Commission represents some 42,000 non-tribal Palm Springs residents, and I think you have a responsibility to that, to those people. And the tribes are becoming much more, throughout the state, more and more sensitive to public opinion. The governor has actually called in the compact negotiations for environmental impacts to be part and parcel. So I think we're right on target. So I would, again, hope that I have no problem with the sign program. I do compliment the tribe for its building, for its parking lot even, including some of the lighting. It's a tidbit bright, but it can be tuned in. The landscaping, I think they've done a sensitive job to the community. But I think the video screen, the large size video screen, I would really love to see both this commission and the tribal commission take another look at.
Thank you, Mr. Tyson.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments from the Commission?
Mr. Chairman, the tribal representatives are here. I'm not sure if they have anything to add.
Do the tribal representatives want to comment? Mr. Davis?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. We're just here to say that I have here the Director of Construction for the project itself, and Rob Donalds, and Mr. Bill Buttram with the ESCO signs for any technical questions you may have. But Doug gave an excellent overview.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis, can we get you, just for the record, before you go, would you give us your name and address and sign the clipboard for us, please? I mean, we all know you, but just for the record, I think we ought to do that.
Okay. It's Tom Davis. I'm the Chief Planning Officer for the Awa County Bandakui Indians, 650 East Tockwitz Canyon Way, Palm Springs.
Thank you. I have a question, Mr. Evans, that maybe you can help me with. And I'll just say, I really like the sign program. I think the signs are well done. And the only problem I'm having is with the what looks like a video screen on the large sign. Other than that, I think that the sign program is very well done, and as is the casino and the landscaping and the rest of it. I think the tribe is to be commended on the job that they've done, and I think it's very compatible with our city and will be a good addition. But on that video thing, is that something that will change? I mean, the pictures will change. Is it something that will, or is it something, a permanent picture such as the one we see here? There will be one picture and that will be it? Or is it something that will change? And if it changes, is it something that changes frequently? Or is it something that changes daily? Or do we know?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to ask the sign company to describe this screen so you hear it from the people that
Okay.
understand the technology better than I do.
And if you'd give us your name and address, please, and then sign in when it's convenient.
Yes, my name is Bill Butt from Young Electric Sign Company, 5119 South Cameron, Las Vegas, Nevada. And as it relates to the imagery on the LED screen, it's controllable, and the content on it will be up to the marketing department of the tribe. It can steady burn as the picture would be for a period of time, but the nature of it is to have multiple messages similar to the one they have today.
So that there's somebody who controls the imagery on the screen and can, from some location, then change the images whenever it's decided it's time to change them.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Again, it's a marketing tool for the tribe to promote the various amenities of the spa, the casino, entertainment acts, the food venues, etc.
Mr. Evans?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, could I ask a question?
Sure.
Can it be an actual television image that's actually a moving picture as opposed to
Could it be-
just stills?
Live video is the question. It does have that capability if they chose, yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I also am extremely pleased with the sign program. It's beautiful. I really appreciate the tile in the background. I appreciate the colors. And I think I would like to make a motion that we wholeheartedly approve the sign program with the deletion of this pylon sign to be restudied. And I understand that it is out of our control, and I would implore the tribe to consider the previous feelings of the rest of the community. They have such an elegant and understated casino and beautiful sign program that I do feel that this one element is out of place and out of proportion. So I make a motion that we wholeheartedly approve the sign program without the pylon sign and recommend to the City Council to do the same.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded as indicated by Ms. Conrad. Is there further discussion?
No, I guess I would just echo what has already been said, including Mr. Tyson's comments. I sat through design review on this, and I agree. Everything else is so well done, and this sort of slaps you in the face. Everything else is elegant, and then it's like a huge Omega screen at a football game, sitting right in the middle of the city. So I agree with Tracy.
Any other comments? Well, we'll call for the question if there are no other comments, and this will be a voice vote. So all in favor of the motion as stated, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? No opposition, so we have a unanimous vote except for the two abstentions, Mr. Matthews and Mr. Hokenadel. And with that, we're still a little bit short of 2 o'clock. We'll take one more matter before we deal with the public hearing items. And if we proceed in order, we would go to number 7. Now, can we get our Mr. Wright, can you help us get our 2 missing members back from the hallway? Pardon me? Yeah. We'll take up item number 7. We'll take up next item number 7, case number 3.2308, application for architectural approval by the Agua Caliente Development Authority to construct a 12,035 square foot clubhouse located at 1097 Murray Canyon Drive, Zone R2, Section 35. I'm going to have to abstain on that matter. Our office represents a client who within the district that we're dealing with here, so that I will abstain and
Mr. Chairman, I will also be abstaining. My family business does work for the authority.
Mr. Matthews, can you handle item number 7 for us?
I believe I can because it's the ACDA. Is that all right?
It's the ACDA, right.
I think your business capacity is with the tribal council,
Right.
not the development authority.
Okay. Case number 3.2308, an application for architectural approval by the Agua Caliente Development Authority to construct a 12,035 square foot golf clubhouse located at 1097 Murray Canyon Drive.
Okay.
Jing, thank you.
Thanks, Commissioners. This is an application that was actually approved before at this exact same site, but the building has been redesigned. So I'm just going to go through a quick overview of the site and then maybe go through some of the changes since it was last approved. This is located, in case you're not familiar, on the Canyon South Golf Course. Directly across the street is the Canyon Country Club clubhouse. This is Murray Canyon Drive here. Previously, the building was approved at about 11,000 square feet, so it's increased in size slightly, but the footprint essentially has remained the same. The big difference from the previously approved plan is that the entrance to the clubhouse actually is on the dike level, which runs here. Previously, it was at street level. The height of the building from top of curb is it's about 30, I think it's about 31 feet. Previously, it was about 30 feet, so it's increased slightly in that respect. The specific plan allows the clubhouse to be up to a height of about 32 feet, so it's certainly in compliance with that requirement. As I mentioned, the entrance is on dike level. Essentially what happens is the parking lot ramps up this way and then flattens out, and you have the entrance there, and also does the same thing on the other side. When this went to design review, there was some concern with regards to the site plan and the site design in general. They approved the architecture of the building, which you can see. I'm going to just pass around as a materials board here. Primarily on the building is a stone veneer, and the dominant material you'll see on the street wall, which exists really on 2 levels. You can see it better in the site section here. There's a 6-foot high wall, which is really for retaining purposes, and then it sets back a couple of feet, and then there's a second wall behind it, so it sort of steps back here, and there's a sort of a perspective view in both of these simulations there. And design review's concern was, does that wall look too massive? And, they really wanted the design team to go back and look at, what does this elevation look like? And also, towards the end of the meeting, they started to also look at, in this path here, where it goes down to the cart storage below, whether, the height of that wall, maybe looks imposing as well. That's primarily what design review came out with, and that's the motion you see before you is an approval of the architecture subject to the restudy of the site design. With that concludes my report.
Any questions for staff?
I have a question. Height-wise, in relationship to the building that was there before, is roughly the same height?
Yeah, pretty much the same height.
Does the applicant or anybody care to address the commission on this particular matter?
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, Nicole Chris with Terra Nova Planning and Research representing ACDA. We have the architect here as well if you have any questions. Otherwise, the conditions are the same as the original approval, and we look forward to a better looking building.
Mr. Chairman, I actually just would like to communicate my pleasure at seeing the architecture. I think it's much improved, and I would move approval.
I would second that.
So that's a motion as presented, subject to the conditions in the staff report. What about the restudy of the site retaining wall?
Yeah.
So what's the motion?
Mr. Matthews. I would move approval of case number 3.2308, subject to the conditions of approval with the restudy of the site design and retaining walls as necessary, as deemed by staff.
And the seconder's okay on that?
I'll second that also.
Any further discussion? We don't need a roll call here, do we? No, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. That's it. If you could let the other commissioners back in the room.
We'll return now to our public hearing items. The next item on the agenda would be item number 3, case number 3.2371, application for a tentative tract map by Maurice Monning for Palm Springs Gardens LP for a one-lot subdivision for condominium purposes and related architectural approvals for the construction of 70 condominiums located at 1050 East Baristo Road, Zone R4, Section 14. Staff report, please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This plan is for 68 residential condominiums located at 1050 Baristo. It is in Section 14. Here's the site plan, just for orientation purposes. You can see in this key map here, Baristo Road is over this way, north is this way. This is Arenas Road, Baristo Road. This is the Caballeros Estates condominiums, tribal cemeteries over here. This is vacant land on this side, and a single-story rose garden HOA. The application, as I mentioned, is for 68 condominium units. This went through an extensive pre-app and design review process, so it's certainly a project that has come a long way. What's being proposed is essentially 4 different unit plans, A to D, and it ranges in size from 1,139 square feet to 1,444 square feet. Gated entry is on Baristo Road here, and then one exit-only entry up at Arenas Road up to the north. There'll be, that's primarily for really emergency access purposes. With regards to consistency with Section 14, as we work just sort of from the outside improvements, on this side of the particular parcel, there's an existing 8-foot wide non-meandering sidewalk, and the same exists on Arenas. The Section 14 master plan calls for 8-foot meandering combination jogging sidewalk on Baristo. Staff felt that was fine, and we adopted, instead of a 12-foot wide, as our general plan calls for, be an 8-foot wide sidewalk on Baristo, and then an 8-foot wide sidewalk on Arenas as well, just to try and match existing conditions. With respect to the landscape concept, again, formal tree plantings on both Baristo and Arenas Road, consistent with the Section 14 master plan. The plan, as you can see in the character sketches and in these elevations here, this is the Baristo Street elevation shown in this, and this shows site section. The smaller one here, it sort of shows a line of sight study. The building height is 2 to 3 stories high. If you look at this site plan, I've colored in orange an idea of what you get for the 3-story buildings, and in yellow the 2-story. The applicant went out last week and put up story poles on the site in order to show the residents of the Rose Garden what they might be seeing from across the street, and also conducted neighborhood meetings with them. And again, that's the line of sight study to show what might be visible. When this went to design review, they were comfortable with the height due to the fact that the buildings, you can see on the site plan, there's a lot of play, a lot of depth. So there's differences in it's not just a flat elevation. 24-foot wide common driveways. The buildings on the internal driveways, however, it varies from between 30 to 40 feet apart. So there's a fairly good horizontal distance to vertical height type of ratio. With respect to parking, there's 2 enclosed parking spaces per unit. Each unit has its own individual enclosed garage along with 30 surface exterior guest parking spaces. And there is a correction in the staff report with respect to open space. The project actually does meet the open space requirement at 45%, and the applicant's also proposing to potentially put decorative paving on some of the exterior surface parking space to sort of just increase what can be considered open space recreational areas. Part of the concept for this was to try and build the project around all the open space areas, the central area, and also you can see in here it's about a 2,500 square foot clubhouse. When this went through design review the last time, they're very happy with the progress of the project and recommended approval. That concludes my staff report, and the applicant's available to answer your questions as well. No, not yet.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Evans.
I would suggest that the commission either ask the applicant or consider imposing a condition that at the main entry on Baristo Road, that there be a decorative paving element. It's rather unusual for a condominium project not to have decorative paving at the entry, and I should have picked that up at design review. So my apologies to you and the applicant for bringing it up today.
Before we open the public hearing, are there any other questions of staff?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Since I'll ask my usual question either to Jing or to Doug, is this 2-piece mudded tile, and what is the texture of the stucco? Those are my...
Jing, can you answer that?
Yeah, that's correct. It is 2-piece tile, and the texture of the stucco is, let me see it on here, Omega accent walls. It's smooth stucco, I believe. Is that correct?
Mr. Grants, are you going to be okay as conflict-wise?
Doug, a question. Is this where the 3 poles are set up right next to apartments? I drove by there, and I'm pretty confident that it's beyond 500 feet from the property that I manage. It's like, Mr. Chairman.
I will double check.
You should double check that.
I'll double check that right now.
Other questions for staff? I have a question. Maybe you can help us with what we have in the way of walls and gates on the project?
The project is surrounded by perimeter walls over here and here. If you can see on the street elevation, they've actually got wrought iron fencing and then gated entry primarily on Baristo with the exit-only gate at the arena side. The individual units themselves have sort of semi-enclosed patio areas. Where would it show here? Some of these front elevations here, you can see, areas where it's meant to be sort of private space for the residents.
On the Bristow frontage, what sort of walls and fencing again do we have? Wrought iron, did you say?
It's wrought iron, correct, right.
Right. And the perimeter walls that go around the sides and back then are of
those are
what?
masonry.
Masonry walls?
Right.
6 feet high?
That's correct.
Any other questions of staff before we open the public hearing? This is a public hearing item. Anybody wishing to address the commission on this item should come forward. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. When you begin your remarks, please introduce yourself and give us your address and sign the clipboard before you leave.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Maurice Monig, with Brentwood Retirement Communities, general partner for Palm Springs Gardens Limited Partnership, the applicant. Today, I'm here basically to answer questions. David Hacker Engineering, our civil engineer, is here also, as is Kevin Ames, our project manager. To address a couple of the issues that just came up, Doug mentioned the decorative paving at the entries. We actually intend to use the decorative paving all the way through the project, so the driveways will be decorative paving throughout, or perhaps a paver. We're open to that, and that shows on the materials board. It is a two-piece clay tile, and it is a smooth surface acrotique type stucco finish. So it's a premium finish that is designed to eliminate as much as possible the cracks that quite often occur on smooth surface stucco. The perimeter wall will be a 6-foot masonry. We'll propose to staff and to design review a slopestone type wall with a slurry coat over it to sort of simulate what I think of as a classic Santa Barbara style architecture. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Mung. Anyone else wishing to address the commission on this matter? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and go back to the commission for additional comments and action. We'll wait for Mr. Grentz to solve his problem.
I think we can vote without him.
Gene, what's the width of this property?
Yeah. I think we can get this down now.
You're real close. That's his.
Oh, wait.
Mr. Chairman, I have to abstain.
Okay.
Business conflict.
Mr. Grentz will abstain from the matter and leave the room. Back to the commission. Any further comments? Do we have any motions?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve item TTM 31328, approve subject to the conditions of approval by the staff report.
And the addition of the decorative paving at least at the entry?
I thought I heard the architect say that they had decorative painting.
Well, they intend to have it, but I think it's probably safer to make it a condition. What I gather is that the applicant doesn't object to that.
With the decorative pavement added to the...
And I'll second that. And that, as far as I'm concerned, can just go to the director of planning to approve the plan.
We would pick that up in final landscape plan and site improvements. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments? We'll have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hokanadel?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Ms. Conrad? Mr. Matthews?
Aye.
Ms. Morantz?
Aye.
Mr. Schoenberger?
Aye. So that is approved 6-0 with Mr. Grentz abstaining. I did. Next item on the agenda, case 5.0946. Also, this is a public hearing item. This is one of 3 applications by Verizon Wireless for a conditional use permit by AFL Telecommunications, this one by AFL Telecommunications, for Verizon Wireless to construct a 47-foot high wireless telecommunications facility and antennas concealed as a palm tree and an 11 by 22 equipment shelter at 3455 North Indian Canyon Drive, Zone CM, Section 24. And we'll have a staff report on this item, please.
Is it 5.0946, right? Yeah, okay. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is for application 5.0946, an application by, it's actually Delta Groups. There was a change in consultants for Verizon Wireless, and the exhibits are actually over on this end. Basically, this site is located on the Lumberman's facility. It's at Indian Canyon and close to Oasis Road. What they're proposing is a 47-foot high monopalm facility. You can see in the photo simulations here, in order to increase their capacity in the area. There's propagation maps down in this area. And really the issue here is with regards to the design review's recommendations with regards to the monopalm. They recommended more of an internalized panel antennas as opposed to what you see here, which are the external antennas with the palm fronds surrounding them. It would be a facility similar to, one of these two. I can just give that out to you there. And Design Review also recommended that 3 live palm trees be planted within 25 feet of the monopalm in order to create more of a cluster effect. The applicant has submitted in your package, you have it in your packets today, reasons why it would be difficult to implement Design Review's recommendations, particularly with regards to their differences in coverage. You can see in the prop map here, this map demonstrates what it would look like with panel antennas within the pole, and this demonstrates what it would look like basically as proposed with the antennas outside of the pole, at its 47-foot height. And there's various other reasons that they've also outlined in the letter to you. With that, that concludes my presentation, and the applicant's representative is also here to answer questions. Thank you.
Jane,
Yes.
can you show us what we're supposed to have in, because I am not finding it here.
It's an email to me. Let me see if I can get it.
Okay,
Looks like this.
here it is.
This is a public hearing item. Anybody wishing to address the commission on this item, please come forward, give us your name and address, and please sign the clipboard before you go.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Norman McLeod. I'm with Delta Groups Engineering, representing Verizon Wireless, 5 Park Plaza, Irvine, California, 92614. Staff did a fine job in sort of explaining to you the scope of the installation. I've taken the request by the Design Review Board, and I take those comments seriously in that Verizon Wireless did some research. You can see that by the propagation maps, if they were to internalize the panel antennas, signal would be reduced drastically. Additionally, on top of that, the RF engineers don't really favor internalizing panel antennas due to the fact that future capacity needs may require an increased number of panel antennas. We have a total panel antenna number of 12. I think with the internalized panels, you can get maybe 6, 2 per sector, maybe 1 per sector, maybe 3 to 6 panel antennas. Working with the construction group, they said if we were to make a pole to accommodate internal panels up to 12 total, the palm would get somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 foot in diameter. It wouldn't look aesthetically correct. Scale, the whole thing would be thrown way off. So in talking with RF some more, the goal was to reduce or minimize the appearance of the panel antennas. That is to bring them back into the palm fronds further than they are presently at about a 12-foot span. I had a drawing developed by the A&E firm to kind of illustrate the reduction, or not the reduction, but rather the reduction of the span from 12 feet to 10-foot arms to reduce the overall dimension of the triangle. So being reduced, the palms would stick out further than the panels would. So you see more fronds than you would panels predominantly. And even the opportunity to increase the number of fronds is even there too as well, to try and screen it even further. So done some due diligence here to try to accommodate, trying to address the issues of aesthetics that the Design Review Board has brought forth. Now it's up to your decision making as to the scope of the installation. If there's any questions, I'd like to answer them for you at this time.
Can we get your name again?
Norman McLeod. Delta
Mr.
Engineering.
McLeod, we'll go ahead, and there may be some questions
Okay.
that the commission members will have for you when we get into our discussion.
Okay.
So stand by.
I'll
and
sit right up front
Yeah,
here.
and we'll take those up when we close the public hearing.
Okay.
Anyone else wish to address the commission on this matter? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing and return to the commission for questions and comments.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to ask a question of Doug. Several years ago, the Planning Commission did a pretty complete study of wireless and cellular technology, and we recommended locations that were more appropriate or more tolerable, and I believe this was probably in that. And I think we asked the companies that came before us to allow for co-location of facilities, so that if if Verizon was there, the next guy could be there. Had that been addressed at all? And do these three sites fall in those areas? I believe they do, but that's my recollection.
Well, the three sites are generally in areas that I think, had we done a map, we would have said these are the best locations. We talked about general locations where it would be best suited. I'm not sure we actually did a map because each company is so fluid. You can't get the companies to even agree on, what type of technology works where. It's been our experience when we try to work with all the companies at once. In this particular location, it is a condition of approval that they co-locate. The challenge that you get into is then you have another set of hardware below the palm frond. So you just get into an awkward situation of a stealth tower now really almost probably looks worse than if you just did a tower. To have one that's a stealth tower with the palm frond and then down below it. But in theory, you could on this one and the one adjoining it add another tower. They would get much less coverage. The only way you could probably make it work aesthetically is you'd have to co-locate at the same time and put both antennas inside the tower at the same time, and whoever's on the bottom is going to be really unhappy because their coverage would be substantially diminished. So co-location's a great concept, but unless you want to go to 70 and 80 feet, the industry's they're just going to keep looking for alternative sites.
Right. And this one's out at Lumberman's, which, seems like a great place to put a tower. That's the questions I have.
Ms. Brantz?
Doug, or maybe this question should go to Jing. Did you say that at design review there was a request to have some real palm trees beside that?
That's correct. The recommendation out of design review was to have 3 live palm trees within 25 feet of the monopalm.
Okay. Is that something that the developers are interested in doing? Do we know that?
I don't think they objected to it.
Pretty
Okay.
common.
Well, for an area such as that area, I would say no. They wouldn't really say, sure, let's put 3 palm trees in a commercial manufacturing zone. Characteristic of that area doesn't really, I wouldn't say, necessitate more palm trees. And also, it's very costly. Obviously, trying to cut costs and economic downturns and the like. The telecommunications industry, as you know, is pretty much down. The answer would be no. Other areas, our client here, our landlord here for another site coming up, is willing to support or supplement that effort to landscape. So there's some different areas where we can say yes to. With this particular site, we'd like to install it just as a palm tree.
Mr. Grins?
Doug wants to make a comment.
Mr. Evan?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the commission has been rock solid in industrial zones to install palm trees so that you don't have one palm tree that looks completely out of place with a mechanical equipment hanging on it. And we call them stealth. They work really well, but you do have to try to disguise them. One of the things we do, even in industrial mini storage buildings that are new, we ask them on the back side within the project to put some palm trees in, so you get depth of landscape as opposed to just a facade of landscape. And this one will stand out if you don't have something else around it, because it will be the only palm tree in that area.
That was going to be my comment as well. It's not very stealthy if it's just standing out there all by itself, and it looks. They do tend to blend in if there are other palm trees around, but if there aren't, I mean, if we're not going to put other palm trees around this, I'd just soon have them put up a tower. I mean, just put up a pole, and put the antennas on it, and that's what it is. But if we're going to try to disguise it and blend it in, then it doesn't work unless you have other palm trees around it. It just looks kind of dumb, I think. So I would be in favor either of putting a requirement in that they do put the other palm trees around it, or that they just do a pole. Mr. Grants? No, not at this point.
I was at that design review, and that was part of the issue with our discussion of including the live palms, was to try to camouflage it. But I guess a question for Jing, why couldn't they put a smooth monopole there instead? A single fake palm tree looks like a fake, the stealth poles when they're by themselves look terrible. If you're trying to make it look like a palm or a pine tree or whatever, there's different technology. Is it appropriate at that site just to put a commercial monopole because it's industrial commercial?
I would suggest that if you put the cluster of palms in, because you're not going to see the base of this one because it's back on the interior. What you're going to basically see is just the upper portion of the facility, and then the adjoining palm trees that you probably want to go that direction. We're probably going to get additional requests for tower facilities up in this neighborhood. We have one that's just a tower, but it was one of the first ones the city approved. I'm not even sure they had palm trees back then.
Mr. Hochredel?
Yes, is there, your existing pole, is something going to come down that you're getting service off of now with the addition? Where's your service coming from now?
Actually, these three sites that we're discussing today, they all pretty much work in conjunction with each other. No other sites are coming down with the installation of this particular site.
So these sites, they leapfrog to
correct.
one
they
to the
leapfrog.
other?
They call it a daisy chain of sites. They leapfrog. They basically communicate with one another. It kind of ties the 10 freeway into the rural portions of the urbanized areas of Palm Springs. And obviously, that's a progression of growth and things of that nature, more carriers, more people. I saw a new development going in on the 111 coming in today before Racket Club. This place is growing. So we're here to accommodate that growth. And it's there. It's a new site. It's needed. Nothing else is coming down in lieu of this one.
This is just to supplement more lines.
Correct. There's a coverage need, and they're anticipating further need as the area grows.
Thank you.
Just one other comment. Is part of your proposal now to reduce, I'll call it the wingspan, the wingspan of the antennae down from 12 to 10 to try to
just bring the panels in as close as possible. Radio frequency engineers need a certain amount of separation between the panels. If there's just one panel per sector, there's 3 sectors, 3 panels, or like, for example, Singular typically has 6 panels, 2 per sector, so they can really streamline things pretty quickly, pretty much easier than we can with a ultimate 4-panel growth per sector. But the goal here is you can work with our engineer. They're pretty stubborn. They know what they need, and jurisdictions know what they need. I know what you need. I know what they need. I got to make things work for both parties. So we can't bring it into 10 feet, and that's as close as we can get. And we can actually enhance more fronds out there as well. We're working with different vendors and palm trees and the like. And, you know, the more fronds you get, the less signal gets propagated. So we try to get a good balance. It might be something you might want to condition per the director's review or staff review to accommodate aesthetic issues.
Thank you. Any other comments, motions?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move approval of case 5.0946 for CUP by Delta Groups with the addition of live palm trees to be included with this equipment.
And that and the span of the antennae be reduced to 10 feet,
10 feet, yes.
and that as many palms as are palm fronds as are feasible be included.
Okay.
So, condition 15 reflects the internalized panels. You can strike that. Okay, thank you.
So that, is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Grinch seconds. Just so we're clear that the motion then would be to recommend approval of the application subject to a reduction of the span of the antennae from 12 feet to 10 feet, that additional palm fronds be added to the extent feasible, and that then there's a deletion, is there not?
Chairman, the motion covers the deletion. We'll just correct that before it goes to council.
Okay. This is a public hearing item, so we'll need a roll call vote.
Mr. Hokanado?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Ms. Conrad? Mr. Grinch?
Aye.
Mr. Matthews?
Aye.
Ms. Morantz?
Aye.
Mr. Schoenberger?
Aye. So we have unanimous approval, and everybody participated. We'll pass next to case number 5.0902, application for a conditional use permit by Verizon Wireless to construct a 55-foot-high wireless telecommunications facility, antennas, concealed as a palm tree, and an equipment shelter at 1776 North Palm Canyon Drive, Zone C1, Section 3.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is, the exhibits are on the middle part of the panel here. On this property, there was a 55-foot monopalm previously approved, similar to what you see here with the exposed antennas. I think there should be a photo of it. It should show up. Well, this is the photo simulation here, but that is the existing monopalm. Essentially where this is located is, this is Vista Chino, should be on the bottom here. There's the Mobile gas station and the Riverside County School. It's between North Palm Canyon and Indian Canyon Drive. This is an Edison substation here. The existing monopalm is at this location, and where they're proposing is the lease areas here, and this is Billy Reed's restaurant over here. Again, what's being proposed is a 55-foot monopalm. Design Review recommended the same thing as they did for the Lumberman site, with internalized panel antennas, and also 3 live palm trees within 25 feet of the monopalm. They felt stronger about the internalized antennas recommendation because the fact that this is in a visible commercial corridor, between 2 major thoroughfares, kind of in the middle of the city. So they felt there's probably less flexibility on the recommendation for this particular site. Staff also had some concern with regards to the 4-foot parabolic antenna that's being proposed here. That is not something that was approved on the AT&T site that's existing right now. So we'd like the commission to also consider that. That concludes my presentation. Again, the applicant's available to answer your questions as well.
Questions of staff before we open the public hearing? Ms. Conrad?
Mr. Chairman, why does this one have to be taller? Why is this one 7 feet taller than the other one?
Perhaps I'd have the applicant answer the question.
Yeah. We haven't opened the public hearing just yet. Any other questions of staff before we open the public hearing? Yes, Mr. Hokenadel.
Do we have a situation with, I see they're encroaching on the driveway that's exiting the property? Is there going to be a problem with fire department usage or anything like that, access, getting through there?
This application was reviewed by the fire department, and they had no issues with the location of this monopomp. We also sent the application to Southern California Edison, and we asked the applicant to give us a title report on the property to make sure there weren't any easements on that 10-foot wide driveway, and there were none that came up on the title report.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions of staff? We'll go ahead then and open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter can do so at this time. And I see, Mr. McLeod, you have some comments.
Yes, if I can answer a question. I have to introduce myself again or address?
No, you're all right.
Ms. Conrad? Question about the elevation. It's all location. Elevation here is either lower or there's more vegetation. I think it's pretty well vegetated pocket of properties right in there. That's the only reason why I could think that RF engineering would require such an elevation. They don't like to go too high, actually. Co-location can be difficult, can be really sticky at times, as I think his director, Doug, was stating that, you need separation between carriers, so co-location wasn't feasible at this location. We had to go even taller, and once you go too tall, it interferes with the other network. And it's called RF pollution, believe it or not. Radio frequency goes beyond the designated site it should interact with. It goes beyond that and causes disturbances. So, to answer your question, 55 feet is what's needed for this particular site. They would like to go 30 feet if it was a perfect world. But unfortunately, with the vegetation, of course, and the urbanization and buildings and the like coming into play, you get signal blockage.
Go ahead.
Follow-up question then, when we're designating that they have to plant palm trees around it, does staff designate how tall those other palm trees have to be? Like, we don't have a clump of 3 palm trees 25 feet away from the monopole that are 10 feet tall, and then we have a 55-foot one in the center?
We usually get into a pretty good debate with the applicant about getting the palm trees up as high as we can. Just the one comment that I'll make regarding the height, and every company wants the tallest tower they could get. Push comes to shove, at council meetings, they've always dropped them and lived with it. The one thing we don't have is a propagation map like up on the upper left that shows these two new sites in there. And if you take a look at the location of this site, the one you just approved, their existing coverage, the fact they're putting a taller one in to the north of this area, my question would be, and I'm a Verizon customer, I've never had a problem anywhere in this town. Whether or not the additional height makes that big of a difference when you're getting pretty good coverage and overlapping coverage. Because if you take the bottom right coverage, the top middle, and overlap them, the 2 cell sites that you're looking at, one you just approved and this one, have a pretty substantial overlap. And then if you then layer in the existing facilities, your green and yellow becomes almost contiguous when you start looking at it. So my question is if the commission might want to ask the applicant, what are you going to lose if you lose a little bit of height when you've got that kind of coverage? Because this probably is as well-covered area with these proposals as we're going to have anywhere in town.
Well, maybe I'm an AT&T customer, maybe I should switch, because it drops out all the place in this town. But why don't I just make a motion that we approve this at a height of 47 feet?
We haven't closed the public hearing. It's all right. It's okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
Well, I guess part of the discussion we had with design review was the parabolic antenna being mounted to the outside of the pole versus that fake ball that makes the thing look like a pineapple. What I'm reading here is one thing, and what we talked about, I believe, is a little bit different. Refresh me on that, Gene, would you? 'Cause I thought we had talked about not having the enclosed antenna at the base of the array, but we were going to mount it as the picture reflects. At least that's where I left it.
That was design reviews, that was the discussion. The concern is, in this case, we have an existing monopole that was approved before, and, staff is just, we're just questioning the need for that particular parabolic dish if the existing site on there does not have one either.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and finish the public hearing, and then we can have additional questions of staff, and also Mr. McLeod, if there are any. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this item today?
Could I add something real quick?
Wait until we
Okay.
close the public hearing, and then we'll get back to your questions and the other issues. Anyone else here wishing to speak on this matter today? If seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, go back to the commission for additional questions and comments. And Mr. Grentz, did you finish up with your question? Okay.
Just, I guess, clarify the answer again.
The answer to your question was yes, that was the discussion, that design review did recommend that instead of having it in, the sort of pineapple type design, to have it, just mounted as it's shown out there in the exterior. The concern was really expressed by staff with regards to the necessity of having the parabolic dish at all, because it's not at the AT&T site.
Okay. Mr. McLeod, could you address that?
I apologize for not being at the design review meeting. The file was handed off to two different consultancies before I got it. But to answer the question about the parabolic, as I understand it, at the meeting, it was discussed to maybe enclose it within this, they call it the palm skirt, I guess, or the coconut, or what do you call it?
Right.
Nomenclature. Whatever it is. There's an issue of separation between the panels and that microwave dish. Microwave is a beam signal that comes from a donor site. There's no telephone line at this particular, each site has telephone line attached to it, a hard line, landline, so it can go to your phone at your house or whichever. So with the panels here and the dish here, you can't move it so close to make it look like it's part of that cluster, or the palm and the trimmed off branches on the palm skirt. So the dish has to be below that. It needs a clear line of sight to the donor site. To be honest with you, I don't know where the donor site is to this particular.
Okay, I was going to ask, because I'm pretty familiar with the technology. But
Okay.
the question then, do you need a 4-foot parabolic dish? I've got a full microwave system here covering half the valley, and most of our dishes are a lot smaller
Like
than
2 foot or 3 foot, whatever it
Right.
is. That is standard Verizon, 4 foot. I think further away you go, further out you go, they become bigger.
Has to be bigger.
So I believe this one's 4
Might
foot
be something
diameter, so it's probably closer, and the dish is, the donor is probably closer to this site than another site that has a 6 foot dish. But you need, to answer your question, you need separation between the panels, as you know, clear line of sight.
Well, I have a question for Mr. McLeod as well. I think you already answered it. There's no telephone, and that's why you need the dish to get.
Right, right. If it's, we would like to have all our sites without a dish, believe me, but when it comes down to
Yeah.
having that backhaul,
Make the motion.
I just, one last question. The suggestion by Mr. Evans was that, or not suggestion, but the comment was that perhaps in this location, we don't really need a 55-foot tall monopole, that a 47-foot pole might suffice. And given the more sensitive nature of this location, do you see that Verizon would be creating a real problem for Verizon if we limited the height of this pole to 47 feet to similar to the other one? Or do you have enough technology to answer it?
well, I have technology at the point that I can't make a decision for RF engineering. I'd have to have some kind of propagation studies done on a certain elevation. I mean, RF engineering gives us a certain elevation. That's what they need. We try and get that as much as possible. There have been points where sizes have been diminished or debated back and forth to an elevation to maybe sacrifice signal. But as you keep sacrificing height, you sacrifice signal propagation, you end up needing another site somewhere else. Look at the propagation maps there, red, yellow, green. The whole map should be green. That's for in-building coverage as well as in-car coverage or what you walking down the sidewalk. The yellow is a good coverage. Green is the best. Red, it could be spotty. You might be in your car. It still works through the windows and in the car, but once you're in your house and more homes are being built in this particular area, spreading, the capacity becomes an issue. Those red areas should be green. And when you lower the elevation, plus with a higher number of users in a digital network such as Verizon's system, the propagation range shrinks as more people use the system.
Well, if we,
So you'll see more red at higher peak travel times, and 5 o'clock in the evening when people are stuck in traffic or commuting or whatever it is, and then the green would be greater, say at 7 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night when people are at home.
well, if we approve a 55-foot tower in this location, when you get through talking to staff about the size of the palm trees you might be required to put in, you might on your own accord decide that a 47-foot tower is a better bet.
So in my naivete and premature motion, I was going to say we approve it to 47 feet, subject to a propagation map and rediscussion with the director up to 55 feet as needed when you see the propagation maps.
Proving need, basically.
This item will go up to city council. We could put that in our staff report. Council's going to, just so the applicant knows, the city council is going to ask every one of these questions even firmer.
And I can actually produce some maps for that meeting as well that reflect 47, 50,
Yeah,
53, 55 feet, so you can really justify the elevation that we're requesting.
Yeah, because we can't answer the question here today, we really don't have enough information. You
Sure.
might prepare that for council, and then if you can show them that you need the 55 feet to get decent coverage, they'll probably give it to you. I think the motion at this point is that we approve.
Second it, and I'll second the motion.
Yeah, do we have a second?
Yeah,
All
we
right.
now have a second.
A second for a 47-foot monopole. Any further discussion?
How about a 47 to 55 foot monopole?
I think
somewhere
I
and
said
keep the 55.
47 with the three palm trees
the
within
three live
25 feet,
palms.
subject to propagation maps and, discussion with the director up to 55 feet.
Are everybody clear on the motion?
Mr. Chairman, can I also clarify regarding the parabolic dish and the internal or external antennas, please?
It seems like you need the parabolic dish because you don't have a hard telephone line, so it doesn't work
Yeah.
with that.
So we are including then the parabolic dish as part of the motion. And your other question, Jing, was?
Exterior, exterior antennas, external antennas?
Yeah, it's a fake.
With a reduced arm, with 10 foot.
If you get a better signal, it'll be into the outside.
Right.
With the, outside with the 10-foot,
Yeah.
just as previous.
Now, is that okay with the motion? Yes. And with the second?
Yes.
All right, so it'll be the same conditions as before with the 10-foot antennae and the additional fronds to the extent possible. All right, we have roll call vote.
Mr. Hokanado?
Aye.
Mr. Wright? Ms. Conrad? Mr. Grinch?
Aye.
Mr. Matthews?
No.
Ms. Morantz?
Aye.
And Mr. Schoenberg?
All right. That matter then is approved 6-1. The next item, our third Verizon application. This one is case number 5.0961, application for a conditional use permit by Verizon Wireless to construct a 70-foot high wireless telecommunications facility and antennas in a slimline pole and an equipment shelter at 6545 North Indian Canyon Drive, Zone M1P, Section 22. Staff report on that one.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is located, it's actually kind of hard to situate. It's, you can see in this photo here, the hole in the wall, I guess, is the closest business. It's just sort of off the picture. Indian Canyon Drive, well, this is the lease area. But Indian Canyon Drive is like way over this way. It's actually about 900 feet from Indian Canyon Drive, about 240 feet from the existing railroad tracks, and then 975 feet from the nearest windmill, which are usually somewhere between 200 to 300 feet. What's originally what they came in with was a just your traditional monopole, so the pole with the antennas. Design review recommended to just do the slimline pole, similar to what was another application, sometime last year for a fire station site. And this pole is 70 feet high. Staff was, and design review was also comfortable with the height due to the fact that it's really sort of out there by the railroad tracks, surrounded by utility poles and also the windmills. Certainly we felt that it was not going to have an adverse visual impact, in the location that it is. Again, the propagation maps are up here for you. This shows what the site would look like before it was the antennas installed and after. The green area and the yellow area are sort of the areas of coverage. So that concludes my report. Thank you.
Any questions of staff? Any questions of staff before we open the public hearing? This again is a public hearing item. Anybody wishing to speak on this item, now is the time. And Mr. McLeod, we're happy to see you back on your third item.
If you have any questions, I'd like to answer for you.
All right. Anyone else wish to address the commission on this issue? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Back to the commission. Any comments on this one or motions?
Mr. Chairman, I move case 5.0961, subject to the conditions of the staff report.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? We need a roll call vote.
Mr. Hokanado?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Ms. Conrad? Aye. Mr. Grinch?
Aye.
Mr. Matthews?
Aye.
Ms. Morantz?
Aye.
Mr. Schoenberger?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, we did discuss at one point at staff the brilliant idea of a Dutch windmill, but we discounted that.
It's been suggested that we take a 5-minute break, and so we'll do that at this time. reconvene our meeting, and unless it's going to create a problem for staff, well, let's go ahead in the order that we've got them on the agenda so that we don't get anybody confused. The next item is item number 8, case 5.0804, PDD 234 and tentative track map 29077, application by Palm Springs Modern Homes for a final planned development district, street improvement, and landscape plans only for the villas at Old Palm Springs, located at the intersection of Museum Drive and Tahquitz Canyon Way, R2R3 zones, section 15.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, I misread that. R2, R3 zones, section 15.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'll be abstaining on this item. My family business is doing business with them.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be abstaining on this item as I own a piece of property across the street.
Very well. With those abstentions, staff report, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This is another part of the final development plans for this project. It's been called Tahquitz Villas. It's got a new name to it. It's at the very west end of Tahquitz Way, up right next to La Valerie's Restaurant. La Valerie's Restaurant located here. Tahquitz Way at the top, Desert Museum, the Willows, and then Tahquitz Drive going up into the hillside. This is a representation of the approved site plan, so you can get an idea of the overall project. And what we're looking for, Commission's review today, is the review of the street plan, and I'll shift exhibit so I can touch it and get to it. But basically, the street improvement plan for this portion, one of the requirements of this project is to improve the street from Tahquitz at Museum all the way up to the project entry. And I'm going to shift to a different exhibit. Again, project orientation. Here's the overall project. La Valerie's is located here, Tahquitz Canyon Way, project entry. The proposed project entry is, again, at Museum Way, there's an existing decorative concrete element here as a crosswalk, as well as a curb pop-out on the south side, handicapped ramp. That was part of our improvement program for the bikeway program we did through downtown. This proposal includes the addition of an 8-foot wide median island to basically channelize and create an end condition for this property. One of the policies in the general plan is to work towards a demarcation that you're leaving the downtown, you're leaving the through streets, you're coming into an area that's different and unique. And by basically coming in with a median island with palm clusters, you really get that feel. 20-foot travel lane here, narrower single travel lane here, curbside parking up to this point, curbside parking in here, and basically a pop-out indentation condition like we have in downtown Palm Springs. So the cars are kind of channeled and protected when they're parked adjacent to the curb, and then the through traffic comes through this way. The idea of the different paving patterns is to have something that's very, very distinctive. Would be a series of pavers. The majority is a herringbone paver, which is shown here. It'll be an extra thick paver because you've got the museum semi-truck traffic occasionally in through here and the deliveries to the restaurant. So it's a thicker paver for durability and structural condition. And also the tighter the weave, the more durable and permanent the pavers are relative to truck traffic and other type of activity. The bands that you see would be a more of a stone type paver. Be shown here. It'll be a fairly tight pattern. It won't be the full pattern that they use with these big pieces. It'll be representative of this, and it gives you a very authentic stone feel. to basically make that look very, very strong. And then a different material in the center to give you the feeling that the median and the separation occurs, even though you can't have the median go that far. That would transition at the entryway into the project pavers, which you'll see at a subsequent meeting. And right here, there's a cross gutter as the break point for Tahquitz Drive as it goes up to the hillside homes. In looking at this, the feedback through design review was extremely positive. A very strong paver statement. Has the look of an old world feel. This photograph is an old world, and the idea is to basically come in and replicate that type of material, pattern and feel with the newer materials that are much more durable. So today, the only thing on your agenda is the street improvements. We started reviewing the landscape plan on Monday with design review, and it's not quite ready for your review today. So the only item on the agenda is the paving pattern, and the city engineer is going to require, as part of the project, that the homeowners association be responsible for the maintenance of those pavers, so that it doesn't become a long-term problem for the city relative to using pavers. From an engineering perspective, they prefer concrete or asphalt. It's easier to work with. It's a more traditional material. If you have to go in and dig up something, it's pretty easy to hire a contractor to come back in and repave. When you start dealing with pavers, you got to bring in the paver people, and you got to set it perfectly, or you end up with an irregular street condition. So that requirement relative to the homeowners working out an agreement for the maintenance of that, to put that into the CC&Rs, is something that we think the commission should probably add as a condition of approval. And if engineering was here, I'm sure they would say the same. That completes our report.
Any questions of staff? Mr. Hoganadel?
With the museum, with the semi trucks or pulling in that back parking, have we cut down on the access for them at all with this by letting cars park in that area? Is that red across from there now?
No.
So there's cars there anyway now.
Yeah, I don't
so
think
it won't change the situation.
We're not
with
taking away much from their maneuvering. It's a little bit tighter on the LaVallerie East driveway. I didn't point out one element of this. Basically doing to create a better sight condition, particularly for these cars in the driveway, is we are pulling the curb out in this area. So it'll be a little bit tighter for the semis, but we don't think it will, make it impossible to get in and out. So we think it's comparable to that. In addition, originally there was thoughts about maybe doing diagonal parking and something else up here to increase the number of parking spaces. There's really not an easy way to do that up on the street. And what the developers worked out with LaVallerie is a little lot line adjustment along this joint property line and put some parallel parking spaces in. So LaVallerie has a few more parking spaces, and that's something that the private parties had worked out so that the developer can come in and rework this driveway. So back in here, you'll end up with some additional valet parking spaces, and that's really the business that needs the additional parking.
Mr. Evans, one question. When we reviewed this project in the past on several occasions, there was concern about people who get back in there and get lost and need to turn around and get out. This doesn't change the movement of traffic once it gets into the paved area, does it? Is it the same as we had looked at before? And is engineering satisfied that there's turnaround areas after you get into the project that will allow people who go in by mistake to get back out?
Absolutely a much better condition, because you'll have this turnaround to use if you do get in there and lost. We believe by the introduction of this median island, we're not going to get the Village Fest lost semis that make the right turn.
Right.
They come down Museum and they think they're going to make that turn. They're not going to make it. The semis are going to come in this way in all likelihood when they service, so they'll know where they're going. And eventually, we're working with the applicant. We'll work with the surrounding business owners to do a nice little sign at that location, which gives you the clear impression that you're coming to the end of the business district, but there's La Valerise, the Willows, this project and other projects behind it. So the idea is to do everything but say, do not enter. We thought that was a little strong.
Yeah. Well, I think that's good because, the more traffic we can discourage going in there by mistake, the better that whole situation will be. Any other comments from any of the other commissioners, motions?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the street improvement plan as submitted.
I'll second that, but how about the condition, the maintenance condition?
With the inclusion of the maintenance condition.
Be drafted by engineering.
Engineering drafts per staff's recommendation.
I'll second that.
All right, any other comments? Voice vote? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed? Passed unanimously. We'll get okay, they're back. We'll take up our next item, number 9. Mr. Evans, any problem with our jumping down to 12? We have somebody here that maybe we can take the item and get him.
Mr. Chairman, you might want to ask if anybody's here on 9. I know the applicant is here on number 10.
All right. Well, then anybody here on number 9? Okay, then we'll continue to take them in order. Item number 9, case 5.0626, application by Nona Del Bene, Association Manager, Sandstone Villas Homeowners Association, by Jason Klaus, McBuilder Corp., for approval to construct a 5 foot by 6 foot room for relocating a 100-gallon water heater at 1950 South Palm Canyon Drive, number 125, R2 zone, section 26. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman and respected members of the commission, this has been a minor architectural approval item that staff originally denied. Consequently, the applicant requested a planning commission determination on this project. They had requested to build a modest closet type 5 by 6 area to house a water heater that was initially inside the building. As a background, the Sandstone Villas are located on South Palm Canyon, and they're basically east of South Palm Canyon, and they're right across from El Portal, if anyone has problems kind of referring to where this might be. They were originally called the Palm Canyon Apartments, and back in 1993, under a PD, they were converted to condominiums. There was 148 units there that were converted. At that time, staff went through the old PD file and actually has done some research in regards to this project. There were indications in regards to landscaping and that type of approval for the block wall, etc. But the aesthetic component of this project wasn't really addressed at that time. The PD had, I think, just accepted probably the architecture that was there, and there were very, very few changes in the conditions of approval to indicate anything out of the ordinary. But back to the proposal, when staff looked at this, the first thing that came to mind is the distance between the adjacent structures. And there's a 1 foot distance that will be represented here in this picture between the new water heater closet, if I might call it that, and the adjacent stairwell. The distance between structures, building to building, excluding the stairwell, is 15 feet 3 inches. Because it was a PD approval, staff also researched the aspect of just what was the zoning designation. Was this an allowable distance, etc. And in the initial study that was retrieved from archives, it was indicated that that it's R2 zoning designation and the R2 zoning standards comply, and a 15-foot distance between structures is mandated in the R2 zoning designation. Staff discovered that after the retrieval process, etc., of the archive file after the original denial. So I feel it just validates the denial even further. It gives more precedence to it. Basically, I think that concludes my report. It was an architectural item that we felt was very obvious from the street, etc. So if you have any questions, you feel free to ask.
Questions of staff?
Yeah, I have one question.
Ms. Morantz?
Did you mention there is an existing water heater somewhere else on the premises? Where is it now, and why can't another one go right where that one was?
That was the existing water heater is in the building. It exists inside this structure, and that was staff's just generic question also.
Okay.
Most buildings have water heaters inside. I think the homeowner association is here, though, to elaborate on their reasoning as to why they felt it necessary to move water heaters out. This is only the first of several that they want to do in this particular development. So this is just, this would be a precedent for others.
Any more questions of staff? Yes, Mr. Hoganagel.
Yes, I have a question. You say that there's only 1 foot of separation between the proposed addition and the existing stairwell.
Yes.
Looking at, say, a floor plan, is that right in alignment or a side of view, the 1 foot? So are they offset from each other? So in
No,
theory,
they're parallel.
so they're right next. So
right.
you actually only have 1 foot of clearance.
This is
between.
not, though, a walkway. This is, you can see it has a block wall, but it does almost meet the stairwell.
So would they be able to get in and maintain their landscaping with just a 1 foot clearance that is behind there?
I think that would be a question for the applicant to answer.
Other questions for staff? Is the applicant here? And would you, if you want to address the commission on this item, come forward. All right. If you would go to the podium and give us your name and address, and if you have some handouts, if you give them to our staff people, they'll pass them around.
Yes, my name is Dan Smith. I'm the president of the Sandstone HOAs. We're at 1900 and 1950 South Palm Canyon in Palm Springs. These were originally apartments converted over in, I believe, Miss Marks stated in '93, and these are, as I said, converted apartments, and we inherited the conditions as they existed. In '99 is when the homeowners took over the association from the developer builder converter. These are some of the things that I think should have been addressed on the conversion. And in today's code, I don't believe that these water heaters would even be allowed to be put inside of a building because of ruptures and these components. There are so many components to a water heater. We have circulating pumps and all these pipes and fittings in there that are a problem with rupture. Another thing is we've our insurance has gone up from $20,000 in the last 3 years to now $102,000 a year with a $25,000 water damage deductible. That's something that's taken a third of our revenue coming in, and it's something that we cannot afford is a $25,000 deductible on water damage. So our insurance companies have asked us, what are you doing to minimize claims? So this is one of the things that we've proposed, is moving these water heaters outside of the units and trying to just put a stopgap there. And no one has a crystal ball and can say, well, your water heater's not going to rupture or it's going to rupture. And that's one of the reasons that all the builders now put the water heaters in the garage, because the garages typically flow out toward the street. And if there is a rupture of a water heater, that water is eliminated to the street and not contained within a unit or units. We did have a recent flood on here, and I can see, you can see some of the damage caused by that in photograph number 8, if you would. My editor back here, he put the pictures together. And if you look at picture number 8, that's the inside of the unit. And this water heater is inside the unit. And number 7, just above that, if you hold the paper on end, that's from the outside looking in. And then, as you can see, the bottom left, number 6, this is a picture of that water heater along the wall, and it sticks out. And what the developer did was just extend this out with 2x4s, a door, and put the door on the outside of the 2x4s. And at the time, this was done in October of '96, this water heater was replaced. And as I said, we had no control over that. It was developer controlled. And it was, to say the least, it was a Mickey Mouse job. And we've run across a lot of that. And in wanting to put in this water heater enclosure outside the building, we do not want to degrade the architecture of the buildings. That's not what we're there for. That's our homes, and we want to stay there, live there, and enjoy our time there. And we can get away with, I believe, making it aesthetically correct by using the same roofing material and the same stucco as the existing on the building. One thing in addressing the space between the adjacent building and the one that we want to move the water heater out of, I didn't have any input in this. I was just working with MC Builders, and they came down to the Planning Commission for a permit 3 times. Each time, it seemed like staff had a different reason they didn't want this water heater moved out. I don't think they realize the impact that our insurance has had on us. And I have from July 2003 here, this community management insider. You'll see that you're to create a policy to deal with high-risk items. And this is one of the things that we're dealing with. We have 16 units, 16 water heaters housed within the units. 2 of them are upstairs. When these, we haven't had any ruptures, by the way, of a hot water heater, but we do not want to have that problem happen. And if 1 or 2 happened, this would create a financial hardship of a magnitude that we just can't afford. But we can afford to move these out as we get the money to do that and eliminate these potential problems. We have these serviced, it's a standing work order with Ed and Connie Bradley with Lifetime Plumbing. They come in and every 6 months, they service these water heaters. They take the boiler door off and they clean them out. Sometimes they get, the first time they came, they got 15 gallons of sediment out of them. And now it's very little, but we do have a maintenance program on them as well as a lot of other items in our complex. And I'm appealing to the members to okay this. One more thing I'd like to address is the distance between the building. We offered, one time I asked the builders to come down, I believe the 3rd time, and that's when they brought up the distance. Well, I asked them to talk to them and tell them that we could move that water heater either east or west to accommodate the distance. Now, on that larger photo up there, you can see that that's not really the building that's that close, that's a stairwell. The stairwell doesn't encompass the entire length of the building. So we could move that to the east or the west, and still, I believe staff wanted 5 feet clearance between the building and the water heater, and we can get that 5 foot plus by going east or west.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. We'll go back to Commissioner with any questions or comments.
Yeah, I have some questions for the applicant, if I can.
Yeah.
I'm fairly familiar with the property. I've had a number of friends that have lived there over the years, and I think you're probably right. At when this converted, I think we've learned something. We should have probably required some retrofitting or something. Because I know there have been some. I need you to stay here because I'm going to ask you some questions. This is okay. There's some. I know in one particular case there were some mold issues and things like that. You said there's 16 water heaters. So a water heater doesn't serve a particular, it serves multiple units?
Multiple units, yes.
Okay. And this is the first of what is going to be several, it sounds like, changes.
We would like to move them all out of the building so that we don't have a chance of eruption.
Which I understand and makes sense and whatever. I think what I'd prefer is, or my thoughts are, is I applaud I'd want to get them outside too. It's a better design and whatever, but I think you ought to bring a plan back for sort of all 16 that take into account some of the architectural things that we're doing here. You may relocate where they are and whatever. You may not do them all at once. You might do them, as you can afford them. The biggest problem I have with this 1 foot distance is in the event, someone is needed to get out or get somewhere. It's a pretty tight space. And that's just bad planning not to have an area for humans, animals, people escaping, firemen.
Well, that's the reason we could move it to the east or the west and get 5
Exactly.
foot plus.
And I think if you brought in a comprehensive plan on the whole site and said, we've got this problem, here's what we want to do, and fix the whole thing, that might be a better approach.
Could we look at photograph number 8 real quick? This unit was flooded by a sprinkler. And this is the condition of the unit as we speak. And you've noticed that 1 foot below the floor, that the drywall is all cut out there. Now, that water ran in through the water heater door, which we had no control over, had been bumped out. And we also want to get that wall sealed from the outside so that a mishap like that doesn't happen. And if you see on
when you say a sprinkler,
number 1 and number 2, you see the drains that we've installed.
Mm-hmm.
We've installed those after that sprinkler mishap.
So when you say sprinkler, you're talking irrigation system
Irrigation
outside,
system,
not a
yes.
fire system or anything like
Right.
that. Well, that really doesn't address the water heater problem. I understand you got another maintenance problem.
Yes, well, we're in litigation right now. The drainage issues are hundreds of thousands of dollars. So
Well,
we're in litigation now.
we don't want to
try
get into
solve those.
we don't want to get into the drainage issue,
Well, that was
I think what we're
that was mentioned on.
yeah,
on
I think what we're saying is that we'd like to help you with the problem, and but I think I sense here a number, if not all of us, have a real problem with a condition being created where there's only a 1 foot separation between the pop out you want to build and the adjacent stairwell, and that's a concern.
Exactly.
And I think the suggestion is that you try to work with your contractor to see if he can come up with a way to solve your problem that doesn't create this condition, that avoids it. And if you come up with a plan that does that, I think you're likely to get a favorable reaction from the commission. So is that possible?
Oh, I've already addressed that. If you see number 4, we can move that water heater compartment down on either east to or the west of the stairwell.
Right.
Ms. Marks, I believe, was saying if we brought that straight out from the existing cabinet, we would have 1 foot space. But we can move that water heater cabinet.
Then I think the suggestion is, Mr. Grins?
Well, I guess a question. I deal with this stuff all day, every day. What I see is you need to put like a curb tray, basically like a shower pan, with a drain that runs to the outside. If you're going to use that heater in the existing space, just leave it there. A question, picture number 8. We're looking at the back side from the inside. What kind of room is that?
That's a bedroom, master bedroom.
That's somebody's bedroom, because you could also address that problem you said where they nailed the 2x4 on the outside. by extending that room slightly to the inside, losing 3 inches and moving the water heater back in. But literally build a tray, and you're not going to have to build another shed for it. A floor drain that just runs the outside with a curb takes care of your problem of infiltrating water from the outside. The other thing you might consider, because I'm going to them, are demand water heaters, that you don't have 100 gallons of water, and I think it would probably work well, because it works well for me in multiple buildings and rooms where it's about this big and hangs on the wall.
Yes, we've
And
looked
they're
into
really
those.
not much more expensive than a big 100-gallon heater.
No, but we're on circulating pumps with
Okay,
these.
well, then that's
And that
different.
thing would be fired up all the time.
But I think just by putting a tray in would cost you a heck of a lot less money, and you could reuse the existing space that you have.
Yeah, I again want to go back to, there are many components within this water heater. We have pumps and pipes.
I
and-
understand.
and
I've
if it
got 2
ruptures
million
and
square
goes-
feet I maintain,
If
so
it
I
goes
do
straight down, a pan is suffices, but if you get a rupture and it's spraying, we don't have any control over it.
I would have to support staff's recommendation.
Well, I think what we're saying is that it sounds like you're going to get a denial, but I also think that Mr. Wright, yeah.
Yeah, do you have an example of what the enclosure would look like when it's finished?
I don't have one drawn up. We can go further into this. I can bring something to you that will represent what we plan.
Mr. Evans?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, to make the commission's job easier, we don't want you to get into looking at each individual water closet.
Exactly.
If the commission, in our view, we looked at it very similar to Mr. Grent's, that these are very common inside buildings. If you put the right pan in, you do it correctly. Obviously, you can't prevent every problem. If you move it outside the building, and if that's the pleasure of the commission, what we'll do is work with the applicant to move them into the least obvious location. Our prime concern here initially, and I think when we denied it, was the proximity to the other building and the fact that, they had an oversized water heater that didn't fit the closet. Therefore, they had to add things to the outside, and that was the builder's issue. And he created an weather-tight situation that an outdoor sprinkler caused a flood. It wasn't a water heater flood. It was the outdoor sprinkler, as I recall, that caused the problem in this particular unit. So we saw it, and we met with the building department. First question we asked was, do we have a code problem if we try to keep these inside the building? As long as it's done correctly, it's not a code problem. Commission has 2 choices. If you feel compelled to help the applicant with moving them outdoors, just say that, and we'll work with them, and we'll get the simplest enclosure design in the best location we can. If you want to keep them indoors, just say keep them indoors, because technically you can fix it. You can't, obviously you can't fix everything perfectly for a liability standpoint, but you can get pretty close if you design this. It's a very old design, and probably whether they had a problem or not, it's probably due that they take a look at the how those enclosures are constructed anyway. So it's your pleasure, just an A and B. Beyond that, we'll work on the details and work it out in the field if it needs to be.
We would like to move these water heaters out of the units, and to make everything, ourselves comfortable because of these insurance premiums that we have to pay and that deductible.
Well, I think try to move the matter along. I think that it's the feeling of the commission that every effort should be made to try to find a solution that will keep the water heaters inside and use a pan and a drain and a gutter or curb, as Mr. Grentz is suggesting. If that turns out to be simply impossible and it's not going to work, then you're going to need to come back with a plan that tells us how you want to modify all 16 of these units. Not necessarily you're going to do them all at once, but this is the plan, this is how it's going to look, this is how it's going to work, It's not going to create a very difficult spacing problem between units anymore because you've moved them this way and you've done this and you've got a good solution. And if you come back with that, then I think, and you've convinced staff that this is the only solution really that's a practical one that makes sense for you, they'll help you. The staff is very, very accommodating. They're going to try and solve your problem for you. We're going to try and solve your problem for you, but I don't think you've got the solution here today.
All right, I appreciate your time.
Would a motion to restudy do this, or you just want a flat-out denial? Because then you could go back and you could choose A or B, depending on, you're dealing with an association here that'll, some may not want to, it might, for example, work out that 6 of them work with indoor trays and 8 of them work better with outdoor, whatever. I mean, me personally, I think I'd do the tray, it'd be cheaper, but I'm not familiar with the situation, don't want to make that decision.
There are several in laundry rooms that we don't feel have to be moved out.
Which is why I think if we send it back for restudy, is that good enough?
Well, I think, the applicant, clearly on this particular one, the staff has said, it should be inside the closet, and we think it can be retrofitted. The applicant is asking you to approve it as an outdoor.
Okay.
And if we would typically look at the whole project and say, the design of the building typically is pretty clean on the outside, and to keep adding sheds, intermittently, we're either going to approve them from staff's perspective, from a manpower standpoint, they're either inside or outside. If we've got to go out on all 16 of them, it's labor intensive to.
Well, that's why, inside you don't change any of the design. Outside you really need to hire someone to do something tasteful with the design, make sure the clearances are right, whatever. But to answer the question for today, I'd move that we deny the appeal on case 5.0626.
Second? Mr. Wright?
Second.
We got a motion by Mr. Matthews, a second by Mr. Wright to deny the application. This will be a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No opposition, so the motion is passed unanimously. And again, I think you understand that we'd like to help you solve the problem. We just don't like the solution that you have right now. But yeah, very good. Thank you very much. Next item is item number 10. Case 5.856, application by Palm Springs Freeway Development, LLC, for a 1-year time extension from October 8, 2003 to October 7, 2004, for a conditional use permit to allow a 60-unit hotel with amenities and 3 drive-through restaurants located at 610 West Garnett Avenue, M1P Zone, Section 15. Any staff report?
Mr. Chairman, you have a written staff report. This is a new project up near Interstate 10, and I'd just like to tell you that the city engineer and his team was successful in getting Caltrans and everybody else dealing with interchanges to probably create the best interchange for this project's marketability. If you look at the map on the property, there would basically be an off-ramp just west of the site. So people coming eastbound on I-10, getting off at this interchange would literally land right at the front door. And we're currently working with the applicant on the actual tenant plans, and we're hopeful we'll bring those back to the commission fairly quickly. We recommend approval. Thank you very much.
Motion?
Mr. Chair, and I'd move approval of the time extension on case 5.0856.
Second.
Second. We have a motion by Mr. Matthews, a second by Ms. Morantz to approve the application. We'll have a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed. Unanimously approved the time extension for that project. Last on our agenda is item 12, case 5.0797. Application by Matthew Talala for Atlas Restaurant to amend the operating hours for the existing nightclub and restaurant for approval so that not to serve lunch for property located at 200 South Palm Canyon Drive, CBD Zone, Section 15. And we have staff report.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this project was approved as a conditional use permit so that they could operate it as a nightclub, a dance club. They felt that that was their prime mission originally, but they also wanted to offer dinner. And because they didn't want any confusion about the type of operation, the fact that they were offering the live entertainment, they wanted to have a conditional use permit for a nightclub. In looking at the proposal from the owner of Atlas, what they found is the market conditions have changed relative to lunch business. I can tell you other downtown business owners will tell me that if you take a look at lunch crowd in their facilities 10 years ago, it's not the same lunch crowd. Their dinner business is outstanding, but they really don't have the lunches because there's so many different opportunities in the downtown and elsewhere in town that we didn't have a number of years ago. What Mr. Talala would like is the opportunity to discontinue serving lunches at his discretion based upon market conditions. The conditional use permit as it stands right now has hours of operation that start at 11 or 11:30 in the morning to 2 a.m. And what he would like the ability to do is just to have a minor change of the conditional use permit that allows him, if he sees the need to discontinue lunches. In my discussions with him, he's indicated that right now he'd like to keep working on the lunch business, keep working on the marketing of the proposal or the project, but he really feels over time he may have to make that decision. In this particular location, it's a corner building. It has a great curb appeal. It doesn't have kind of those concerns that we've had. At one point, we had at Chillers where when they were closed, they rolled the doors down and it looked like an industrial building. Yeah. And when they turned the thing on, they'd roll the doors up. This building has pretty good curb appeal even when it's closed because you can see in the building. So it probably has a different feel. It's really a policy issue. We do have several bars in downtown. Almost all of the facilities that we have in our downtown are open generally during the day and evening. We don't have any facilities that I'm aware of that serve food and liquor that are closed at lunchtime. That was a concern originally with Muriel's. I mean, it was something that Jerry Ogburn and I talked to the original developers about. They felt that they wanted the opportunity to serve the lunches. But obviously market conditions have changed, and Mr. Talala, long-term business owner, is looking for the opportunity to have flexibility based upon what he sees as the market conditions. That completes our report. Mr. Talala is here if you have any questions. I did not get a chance to directly discuss this with Jerry Ogburn, Downtown Development Center. Jerry's on holiday. But I think Matthew's been talking to Jerry for some time about just overall conditions in the downtown. But that completes our report, Mr. Chairman, and you have a written request. Since this was so minor, we didn't prepare a specific recommendation relative to how you might do this. We did put in the motions agenda, a fairly simple statement. Commission may want to put hours in, so there's an issue, or you could just say they could discontinue lunch. It's really your pleasure.
Any questions of staff?
No, it wasn't too many years ago when summertime Palm Canyon pretty well shut down and there wasn't a restaurant open for lunch, and there's a wide variety of choices now. I guess I would look at it, what would we looking opening for a happy hour, like a 4 o'clock opening? That's when I've been in there for lunch, and I can tell you there's been times where there's been a lot more staff inside the restaurant than there have been customers. It's kind of a tough venue for lunch.
It is, and I'm noticing that. Good afternoon, first of all.
Would you state your name and give us your address, please?
Matthew Talala, 1390 South Calle Marcus, Palm Springs, California.
And be sure to sign a clipboard before you leave. Thank you.
I sure will. Business used to be a lot better, as Mr. Evans indicated earlier on. There was less competition and less lunch-type businesses. Now, there is Del Rio's, there's the Village Pub, there is Las Casuelas. There are more luncheon conducive operations. We also have a trend that exists with the perception of businesses, and that is because I am a nightclub and because I am fine dining, people seem to think of me when it's dinner time, and when very few people, and also the fact that Muriel's did not open for lunch, although they were expected to open for lunch. They were not open lunches. The business is just simply not there. And we are at a crossroad right now. We are thinking, would it be a right thing to do to just close for lunch, and then we never may have the chance to build it? And the other philosophy is, let's close and cut our losses. And our family and management are discussing the possibility right now. We are not completely settled on it, whether it's the right thing to do or not. I like the option to allow me to close if that turns out to be the right thing to do.
Can I make a motion?
Yeah.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion approving the amendment that he can have the option not to serve lunch based on market condition.
Second.
Can I just ask, why was it a condition of approval that there have to be lunch? Was at the time that the original CUP was issued, was it worried that there was going to be a big black hole in the middle of downtown if they didn't serve lunch, and that we should only have establishments that serve lunch?
The idea and the dialogue we've had for many, many years is to try to have our businesses open, as often as possible, so that we don't have closed spots. I think market conditions have changed dramatically since Muriel's first opened, and before, when we were really in a situation where people concerned about what's the appearance of downtown. This facility looks good whether it's open or not. I mean, it's got a great curb appeal. So it's not like a traditional nightclub that has darked out windows and posters in the, telling you we'll open up after dark. Yeah, that'd be a good comparison.
Any other questions, comments? Yes, Mr. Hockenadel.
Yes, could this be looked at as a seasonal situation?
Well, the way the motion is that it really becomes one that the business owner has the discretion as to when to serve lunch. I think he indicated it's a challenge to be open and then not open. You either have to build the business or you lose the business and start over, and that's tough, to start it over again.
Any further questions or comments? We have a motion then, as stated. We have a motion was by Mr. Grentz, I believe. Second by Ms. Morantz. Mr. Matthews, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it unanimously, and you've got your flexibility.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Have
Welcome.
a wonderful afternoon. I'm the last one, I guess.
Sorry you had to wait. We tried to get you in earlier.
I noticed, and I really appreciate
Okay.
that. Thank you
We just
very
couldn't
much.
quite do it. Okay, thank you.
We're trying to recruit Matthew for a board or commission position, but I think we might have discouraged him.
Yeah, well, that takes care of that. We'll move down to item number 13, Commission Work Program.
Mr. Chairman, with regards to the general plan update, we've reported to you about the first meeting of the General Plan Committee. We have a meeting coming up, the second meeting of the steering committee next week, and that agenda is just being finalized. Larry is putting together a general plan update. We'll give you a different day there. He's putting together an update after each meeting, and what we did this last one was we had all the participants give us a list of the 5 most important issues that they saw facing Palm Springs. And what we did was we put those into a format, a little flyer, and we'll get that out to the commission so you can kind of track what they're doing. They did form a subcommittee to take a look at the housing element. The subcommittee met yesterday. It's my understanding they had a very good meeting. They met for a solid hour and a half. Had a pretty good cross-section of people. From neighborhood representatives to business interest, so they had a good discussion on the housing element. I wasn't there, so I can't represent exactly what the discussion was, but my staff indicated that it was a good discussion, and they started to see the fact that the committee members were starting to realize that they're really policy driven. that it's not opinion-driven. It's what are the facts, what are the issues, what are the policies, and that's going to be a challenge with a big citizens group, is to get people over the hurdle of saying, I'm going to come in and profess my opinion on everything, because really, just as you're bound by the general plan and the rules and regulations of the city, you know, what the committee's doing is they're looking at those rules and regulations, and very quickly they become a committee, not individuals. And we're starting to see that, and that's the first real step that staff was looking for, was to starting to see that kind of, we've got to work as a group, and we saw it with a small group. So we're very pleased with that, and we'll keep the commission updated. Probably the most important thing we're going to start bringing back to the commission has to do with Parks and Recreation planning. We had the joint meeting with Parks and Rec Commission. We've got some live development proposals in an area that has 2 parks, where we probably would prefer to have one larger one. So you'll probably see that on your August study session. And the council did approve the Quimby Act last Wednesday night. We are working as we speak on some refinements, so we'll probably reintroduce it tonight with some minor modifications, just so we can try to get as much consensus in the community as we can. You know, it's a $20 to $26 million funding tool, and if we've got to make some fine-tuning tweaks, we feel it's better to do that right now than to adopt something and have people challenge the imposition of the fee later on. So we're very positive we're going to work that out, but that's a big step for the city council. Just so you know, an average single-family home in the Quimby Act would only apply to subdivisions that have been applied for after the date of the ordinance. So everything you've already approved is gone. Everything already submitted to the city is gone. This is only the new stuff that comes in after the ordinance is in effect. But if you make an assumption, because it's a formula based on one component is appraised land value of the development, assuming a $50,000 per acre land value, the fee would approximately be just under $2,000 a unit for the acquisition of park land and construction of park facilities. That's a little bit higher than other communities. Indio was kind of the barometer. They're about $1,400, but we can't get the information they used for land value. And, so we can't, they're not providing the information so we can compare apples to apples. Our land values are probably a bit higher. And clearly, our park amenities in Palm Springs are the most expensive of any in the Coachella Valley. We have the best park system, we have the largest park system, and we have the most highly amenitized park system with swim centers, pavilions, baseball fields. We've got a lot of amenities in our parks. So the fact that you pay a little bit more in Palm Springs in the future is commensurate with the quality of parks that we offer today. And that's the intent of Quimby, is to take where you're at today, and you have the ability to try to maintain that as you grow. And that's the basis of what we've been doing. And the city attorney's office and Larry in my office have been working real hard with calculators to try to come up with something that's as reasonable as we can. We still think some people will feel it's a bit high. And then clearly, if we get into the land valued at more than $50,000 an acre, it goes up. But in essence, they're not having to dedicate land. They would have to dedicate their land, which is more expensive land, and that's how you kind of balance throughout a community, because not all the park facilities will end up in $50,000 an acre land. We may have to come in and do some things around Demuth Park sometime in the future, and that's a more expensive situation. So, that's a quick update on the General Plan Committee, Parks and Recreation planning, as well as council actions, but they're, as you know, all intertwined. As far as work program priority subcommittee assignments, just a reminder about that general plan meeting. And council cabinet's not coming up. Section 14, we're going to get that back on calendar. We've got a few things off our plate. Larry and I will start working on that again. And I don't know if the Tahquitz Creek Subcommittee has met, to be honest with you. we're working with the development team, and we're refining some ideas, and when they're ready, we'll pull the subcommittee together. Mr. Chairman, that completes our update today on Commission Work Program.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. And anything further on city council actions?
Well, last week we had a pretty phenomenal meeting relative to the business that came from the Planning Commission up to council. We also had a last-minute surprise that was very disturbing for the staff, and I think the council, and hopefully members of the community. The Palm Springs Classic project went through the Planning Commission with no opposition. It went through the 30-day required public review period for the environmental documents with no opposition. Starting on July 3rd, we got our first little note from the Sierra Club, and on the 16th, last Wednesday, we received opposition from 2 organizations, one jointly written for the Sierra Club and Center for Biological Diversity. That was about that much. And then the Center for Biological Diversity attorneys wrote and attached material stacking that high in opposition to the project. The City Council looked at that, considered that. It was a milk fetch issue. There's a federally endangered species on the Classic site. All the cities in the valley traditionally use the fringe-toed lizard mitigation fee as adequate mitigation, because most of the land that you purchase for fringe-toed lizards is also habitat for milkfetch. They live in the same types of environments. The environmental community said that was not good enough in Palm Springs. So they basically claimed that we did not fully mitigate milkfetch. The Center for Biological Diversity also questioned general plan consistency, type of environmental document, flood control design, golf course in the wash, even though we've got multiple golf courses right next door to the property. Air quality, water quality, I'm not sure they missed anything. The council did impose additional mitigation. They looked at the occupied milkfetch habitat based upon spring surveys this year. They took a look at that. We came up with a mitigation program for each plant. We basically went out 600 feet from each of the 8 plants, added that up, and that was 52 acres. And we recommended that the council consider imposing an additional $600 per acre for those 52 acres for milkfetch habitat. You know, I think the opposition basically feels that the entire site should mitigate for milkfetch, and they may not accept money. Even though all of the data on the Coachella Valley multi-species plan indicates this is not a site to preserve. This is a site to generate some money, to buy property elsewhere. So we're quite disappointed with that. So we don't know what's happening. We've got a 30-day statute of limitations. We're waiting to see what happens in 30 days. You know, so we can't say much more. Don't want to say much more since there's potentially a threat of litigation out there. These are the same things we talked to council about, so I'm confident that I'm not compromising the city or developer's position by giving you an update. With regards to the canyon, Indian Canyon's specific plan, that was approved by the city council. They were very pleased with it. The Desert AIDS Project campus was approved by the city council. Lots of accolades for all the hard work by many, many people in the community on that one. And then the Quimby Act ordinance was approved. And so we had a busy night, not to mention a lot of public comments before we even started the business on the meeting. Tonight, the city council has a special meeting with a number of things on it. There's going to be discussion about 3 or 4 projects that were built in the 80s that had density bonuses and resale restrictions. Evidently, the program was not administered as tightly as it was intended, so you have people living next door to one another, that one has a market rate house, one has one that may not be market rate, and the council's being asked by those homeowners to lift those restrictions And, it involves, I think, 3 or 4 projects, no commission actions in that at this point. And that completes the council update, Mr. Chairman, regarding planning issues.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Commission staff reports and requests. Just a comment on the Quimby Act. Mr. Evans, I'm very happy to see that passed. I would hope we could implement it as soon as we can. I feel badly that we hadn't had this in force before now, but certainly we don't want to miss any more if we can help it, at least from my standpoint. Other comments?
Yeah, apropos of that, I absolutely agree, but, and just as an aside, in Ruth Hardy Park, we've been waiting months to have the slide fixed, and the turtles don't work, and I'm hoping that the turtles in all of the parks work right now in the hot weather for the kids. So, sorry to bring it up in public, but.
We'll send a note over to Parks.
Any other comments? Any other?
Yes, John.
Yes.
Doug, we have Palm Springs has a reputation. Everybody says that we are hard to deal with in the planning and building department. Do they realize that when we get into litigations like this with the milk vetch situation, that it's not us that are holding things up? Or do they look at it, as a, they can't get it through and they're blaming it on the city and it's not really us?
Well, in this particular case or any other case where we have environmental challenges, the developers know exactly where the city's position is, and the city's been rock solid behind them. We are, and the commission and the council has been pretty tough on imposing mitigation. We push what I think the reasonable envelope for mitigation from a city's perspective pretty far, and the commission's been doing that. And the city's philosophy for many years is if you get into the washes, if you get into the hillsides, you get into the canyons, those are areas we have policies, that you have to comply with, and you have to mitigate your impacts. So we've been pretty tough, and some developers in those areas may feel we're tougher than others. But when it comes to the decision making, I don't think they fault the city, because the city council's been virtually unanimous in most of the key projects, if not all. Well, most, maybe one exception. I think the issue probably has to do with a lot more of the small customer, the small residential customer, the small contractor, and it's a combination of factors, and we just had the development task force look at it. The chairman, when we met with him, said that most of the commercial customers get real good service. That was his comment, that we have a pretty good system, and it's at least as good, if not better, than some of our valley cities, and he mentioned several cities he thought we were better than. I won't do that on television. So I'm trying to quote his comments after chairing that committee as opposed to mine. But that committee's real focus was, it's the smaller customer that comes in that doesn't really understand what to do, probably needs a lot of attention. I mean, I can tell you, I get planners that get tied up with water closets for hours. To us, it was a pretty simple decision, but it turns into hours and hours, and that turns into we're not customer friendly, even though we put the time in, because we didn't give them the answer that they wanted. And sometimes we're bureaucratic, and we deserve some criticism for that. I mean, I'm as critical about what we do as probably anybody, but it's a combination of planning, building, engineering, and sometimes somebody that doesn't understand how that works, they start going around the permit center, and they just don't understand what they're hearing, and after their third counter discussion, they get frustrated. And I think that's probably where a lot of it does. The challenge there is, how do you capture that customer and walk them through when you've got 5 more waiting in line behind? And how many customer service people do we put up at the front counter? Because every day Jing's at the front counter, she can't do 5 public hearing reports. she's stuck at the counter, so that becomes a non-productive day.
Right.
So it's a real dilemma, and right now, we're as busy as we've been in the history of this city as far as counter activity, phone activity, and development activity. So it's a challenge of how do you deploy the resources. I could probably take care of the mom and pop customers. Commercial customers would not get the service that they need. So it's a real balance.
Just for Mr. Hockenadle's information, the development task force that Mr. Evans mentioned was a task force that met numerous times, probably 15 or 16 times or more, starting in the fall for a period of about 5 months, addressing these very issues at the behest of the city council, who felt that this issue needed to be looked at and explored and investigated. The level of service that we're providing, the complaints that we've had for a long time from different sources. And that task force came up with some recommendations. We hired an outside consultant, paid him $25,000, I think, to come in and look at our whole operation, building, planning, engineering, and came up with some suggestions, which I think were valid and good suggestions to the extent we have the resources to implement them. That's always a challenge. I mean, the city is stretched very thin right now. But the overall consensus of all those meetings and that whole study was that basically we serve the commercial customers pretty well. Very few complaints. And as Mr. Evans suggested, that the bulk of the complaints come from the person who's not used to dealing with the process and doesn't know how to deal with the process. They require an extraordinary amount of time and resources, which I think the staff does their best to give them. If we had more staff, if we had more resources, we undoubtedly could do a better job. Given what we have, there's always some room for improvement, but basically the system functions pretty well was the conclusion of that task force, with some exceptions which efforts are being made to mitigate. Any other comments?
Because when I deal with the planning or the building department, I don't have problems. And so, people come up and they're, always knocking you guys down, and I don't see where the issue is all the time. But, they're getting experience dealing with you, and I think a lot of it is respect. Builders give you respect, you get respect back, and people come in and just start hammering on you all the time. And
well, the thing, one of the conclusions was that it's kind of like the weather. It's sort of everybody likes to complain about city, that it's too slow or this or that, and to some extent there were some legitimate criticisms, and it's not to say that they're all not, but a lot of it we found was not based in fact.
Thank you.
Any other comments? One question before we go. To make sure we have a quorum at the study session the first week of August. I know that 2 of us are not going to be there. Anybody else not going to be there? First or second week of August, that's 3. The other 4 of you will be here so we can have a meeting, study session. Mark will chair it. The next meeting would be on the 13th. And I think anybody else not going to be there? All right, Mr. Matthews won't be here. Anybody else not going to be here? Well, it looks like we'll be able to have all our meetings in August then, as long as staff is ready to have them.
If we don't have them, then we just get clobbered the next month. So it does help us. I'll just make a comment, and I talked to my staff this morning. They worked exceptionally hard to get everything to council on the 16th and the 30th, so that we didn't have a huge backlog in September last year. We had a 2.5-month council log jam after the council took August off, and this year we won't have it. We've cleared everything virtually that we could, either last week or on the 30th. So the staff worked real hard, and some of them just are out of breath right now, and particularly Jing. You saw what she did today, and you know, the agenda last week, she had a lot of stuff, and Alex has a lot of stuff. So we're a little tired right now, but we're looking forward to at least not having council reports in August.
All right, anything else? Meeting's adjourned.
Could I?